Hey everybody, welcome back to Your Free TV. It is Monday, July 21st, 2025. I'm so glad to be back with you here on the channel. And I'll just start in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. So I'm so glad to be back with you here today. I always start by saying thank you. Thank you so much to everybody supporting You Are Free TV, including your comments of support and your prayers, all of it. And the donations, of course, you make the channel happen, and I'm so grateful and thank you. Okay, so we're just going to jump right in here with the news. There's so much, and it is, of course, incredible. Everything going on with the Crossfire Hurricane treason that Tulsi Gabbard has been expressly saying that this is a treasonous action. These are treasonous actions, and this is a seditious conspiracy to overthrow the US government. These are very solid words, ones that we have not heard before. And that's why DNI Gabbard is fantastic, you know, gold standard level. And so we're going to jump into that and talk about why this isn't just a beard. This is actually very important. And I think we got some kind of squirrely messaging out of the DOJ, whereas Tulsi Gabbard did today put out that she's put those criminal referrals forward. And of course, releasing all of these documents. And Grassley released some major documents today to do with the FBI and Hillary Clinton's server, huge as well. And I think the DOJ has put out a little bit of a statement of that they're not committed yet, kind of thing. And so this is going to be a bulldog fight as we go in here with trying to get this treasonous conspiracy brought forward. I think I have to clean my glasses a tiny bit. And so, yeah, I'm going to start with why this is deep and why it's not just and there's so much news besides we're going to get to. But I'm going to start here with Gabbard and some of why this isn't just fluff. And part of why it isn't is that what is part of that's coming out is that, okay, so let's track back here. This is Crossfire Hurricane treason. And when we look at part of what's coming out here with the Gabbard release, it gets into the whole situation. And I was reporting this back in 2018, along with, you know, dozens of other incredible researchers, where basically the way they were communicating this. So back in 2016, it gets to this sensitive meeting, right, on December 9th, where on December 8th, they held back the presidential briefing, daily briefing, the PDB, and basically said, no, we're going to insert this Russia interference in the election stuff under the command of Barack Obama. And Barack Obama had organized this meeting in the Oval Office with everybody, James Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Lisa Monaco, and so many others, who then later became what was the sensitive meeting team. And I used to call them back in the day the SM team, right? Because that's what they are. They're sadists and masochists. They're both bootlickers and extreme violators, predators, right, at the same time. And so the SM team, the sensitive meeting team that then Comey kept having all of the meetings after it in the FBI, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and Nellie Orr and the whole crew, right? And Lisa Monaco always plays really, really big in this. But one thing that is so important to understand is the way they communicated around after this December 9th meeting in 2016, where they decided to go with this fake, bogus Russia interference narrative and the Steele dossier and the creation of it all against all the evidence that it was fake, and create the FISA warrants to go after Carter Page, who now just seems destroyed. Every time I see him being interviewed, he just looks awful. And would pray for Carter Page, because the FISA warrants that went against him and Michael Flynn has arrived in DC today. this morning, and going to be in meetings there for all of this that is going on with the intelligence. And of course, Barack Obama saying that, the one thing you can't do, President Trump, is bring in Michael Flynn as National Security Advisor, which is exactly what Trump did, and why exactly they set up Michael Flynn in this ridiculous lying to the FBI witch hunt that they did. But the important thing here that I want to mention is the methods that come out in the Gabbard documents, the methods of how they communicated the plan. And she said later this week there's going to be way more documents that she's bringing out and releasing. And this has to do with them creating within in classified communication systems where they would have email accounts, and instead of sending emails to each other, they would all access the accounts of the other person, all sharing passwords, and they would just write emails in their draft folders instead of sending them. And so the other person could come in and read the draft email that was never sent, okay, as a way of circumspecting, basically the cloud connections. But they've already have it all. They didn't quite get that they still already have it all in the cloud. And we have that whole interesting hack that happened right after Microsoft on Friday. I was talking about the Microsoft, the reveal about the CCP being the technicians that were basically setting up every VPN, every interaction in the State Department, in the federal government, including DOD. And Hegseth put out today saying that they were getting the CCP out of that. Well, that's good. About time. But basically, but then there was a huge hack over the weekend. And I'm skipping around here a bit, but it's significant because right after it was announced that Microsoft had their software, their Azure software, embedded in all of the federal government agencies, including intelligence and DOD, that was backdoored by the CCP through the technicians with administrative capability to go in and read everything. This all goes way back right to the Hillary Clinton servers, okay, and what has also come out through Grassley. And so then over the weekend, they then again hacked everything, okay, and on multiple federal agencies, and I believe also the DOD. There were also multiple sensitive businesses that were hacked as well. And I don't know if this has to do with the Alaska Airlines that went down for like 3 hours this morning, but it seems likely. And basically going in there probably with the attempt to destroy evidence. Okay, but it seems like that was thwarted and they still have everything in the cloud. And Hegseth sort of referred to that, about the cloud, and that you can't really escape what's in there. But he said we're getting the CCP out of our just all of our intelligence and our DOD cloud information. So all of this very interesting and connected. And so the situation with knowing that Gabbard is actually sharing their methods, because this is what she's saying. She said they used classified email servers. They used classified communications where they would not send the emails. They would just put them in drafts. And again, reporting this back in 2018, but it's still so fantastic to have the Director of National Intelligence putting this out to the public, saying that this whole operation is treason and that it is a seditious conspiracy to overthrow the government. It makes you think of, the visit to Alcatraz and reopening Alcatraz, and Bondi saying, well, who would be housed here? Well, I guess it would be the worst of the worst criminals, right? Very interesting to see. Treason has very serious consequences. And so, of course, Mike Flynn's, come out before the weekend, but also again this morning as he's arriving in DC, he's saying, they need to have a task force immediately of federal marshals or something like this, where these people's passports are seized. And you could go one step further and say, well, actually, seeing as this evidence is so clear, it's already there, and Barack Obama was the president, as the commander-in-chief, this is more of a military style trial, or basically a trial for treason through the military, and that all of their electronics, should be seized as well. Think of what they did with J6 and the immediate use of thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of FBI agents across the country to invade people's homes and steal all of their electronics and phones for walking across Capitol grounds. It's this level of response is what's necessary, and we don't need Pam Bondi interfering, as we know that she can and likely will. So we're watching, we're seeing what's going to come out, as Grassley is also, of course, coming out with this amazing release of information today, basically releasing the Hillary Clinton appendix that came out of the Horowitz's report. IG Horowitz, he's the head of the council, a very top part of the deep state, who Trump seems to keep around. Okay, so that's interesting in itself. But basically showing that Comey used the same skewed intelligence to not prosecute Hillary Clinton, and that he already knew that there was zero evidence that Russia hacked the DNC. Again, it feels like ancient history, but think of Seth Rich and his life and what it's worth, and how they used a gang member for entertainment purposes only, Pelosi's Children of God, to kill him in DC. And he, everything about the thumb drive, everything to do with WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and all of it. And basically, what's come out through Grassley is that the FBI had 8 thumb drives of data, worth of data, out of the DNC server that was linked and mirrored through Hillary Clinton's, I believe, her Blackberries, to what was Wiener's laptop, that was Huma Abedin's laptop, and on those 8 thumb drives, what we've been watching forever is the horrible stuff. He gets into the Podesta, all the children, awful crimes, all of that, and also the massive national security shared with the Chinese, and et cetera, and all of their discussions outside of White House intelligence realms to basically go along with their plan. And it gets into the Steele dossier, the creation and recovery of it, the presentation of it. But basically, it's basically a trove of the hacked emails, okay, of Barack Obama is also in that. So Barack Obama's emails are in those 8 thumb drives that they have, that Grassley is releasing and wanting to get justice on. So this is, massive. It's massive, and it's so important. And there's so much else going on that we basically, I'm going to get into much more, but we have to understand the importance of this right now, and understand that, why it needs to be 100% understood, that we can't just let it go, and we won't. It's just coming out. But getting back to Lisa Monaco, mentioning her earlier, she on that day of December 9th, 2016, when Barack Obama set up this sensitive meeting, okay, and stopped the presidential daily briefing going to Trump. He basically, Lisa Monaco was at that meeting, and one of her deputies was subpoenaed today, who was central in all of this at the time. One of her deputies that worked for her. So that's very interesting. We'll be seeing what comes from that. A subpoena, fantastic. But basically on that morning, and this is Julie Kelly doing the heavy lifting here, but she is great. I'll link her Substack below. But she was saying that on December 9th, 2016, before the meeting, you had Lisa Monaco attending what was the Christian Science Monitor breakfast meeting. And at that, she had selected media there where she leaked this information to them about Russian interference in the 2016 election, sort of priming the pump, getting the media set up for this. And one of those people was Michael Isikoff out of Yahoo News, and he became central in all of this because he, I believe, was the first one that put out the Steele dossier news. Okay, and this is it's so imperative because this leaking to them specifically, planned, of course, in this whole coup attempt, was to have there be articles out in the mainstream media that this Russian hacking thing and the Russia, collusion narrative and Russia interfering with the election, which would stop Trump from being able to effectively work with and coordinate with Russia for his entire first term, through the impeachments and all of it, and the witch hunt collusion of the Russia baloney. Well, these news that went out through Yahoo News and Michael Isikoff was used by FISA. Okay, it was used by FISA. Okay, as evidence, used by literally, okay, the FISA court, which is supposed to only be for foreign nationals, which is why they needed a foreign country being interfering with the election, was used as evidence that was used in the FISA court and totally doctored. And we had Kevin Kleinsmith out of the FBI who lied on those original FISA documents, FISA documents, and basically, just basically lied. And it was Judge James Boasberg, okay, of the Inn of Councils, this elite organization of lawfare. We have, of course, the chief SCOTUS there, John Roberts, is a member of and multiple of these other DC judges that have been doing the lawfare against Trump, of this Inn of Councils that is totally cabal run, totally international, basically UK MI6 run. And Boasberg was the one who let Kleinsmith off for lying on these FISA documents. And those FISA documents, as I said, they set up Carter Page and then Michael Flynn, and it went from there. So it is very interesting that Lisa Monaco, who Trump is constantly calling out, was in there from the get-go, just right central in, even before it all came down. And then where does she end up again? She ends up as Deputy AG to Merrick Garland, who thought he was going to get a Supreme Court seat out of all of it and never did. And she, of course, was the attack dog for then again the same setting up of the J6 scenario, the immediate attack, setting loose the FBI to go against all the J6ers, with the end game by 2021, after they stole the election, being to go after Trump, to raid Mar-a-Lago to get back, okay, the Crossfire Hurricane documents. In between, we had Lisa Rice, her whole weird letter, and just all of it, okay. And Rice just got booted out like a month ago. Okay, she was still hanging around there in the deep state in Washington. She was still part of like National Security Council, and so just crazy. And so it is. This is not like your simple thing here where it's just, oh, we're blowing smoke, this is treason. No, this is deep into the real deal of the real stuff that went down. And so we pray for all of this to just really ramp up. And I hope they do follow the advice of Mike Flynn and others. These people's passports should be seized immediately, and of course their assets frozen. This is a big investigation that is about to break down, and they have the evidence. That's the thing. And so if Bondi isn't going to act, all these people took oaths of office to the Constitution, and for people like Barack Obama, that's working as the commander-in-chief, that has an easy track to be a military trial. So we're going to keep watching that. And so we're going to move on to there. There's so many things going on. And I want to put out there that Secretary Bessent, basically has put out in issuing a warning, okay? And they're setting the stage here to do with the Federal Reserve. We have Anna Paulina Luna coming out and making a criminal referral on Jerome Powell to do with his lying to Congress regarding the remodel of the Fed, making it the second Palace of Versailles is the sort of talking point they're putting out there with a $2.5 billion budget that started out as a $500 to $700 million project. And why the hell would it even be that? But basically making it into this fortress that's fit for kings and queens, okay, for the Fed. And so she's referred him up for criminal referral. Anna Paulina Luna, who keeps doing great work and is also still misled in other ways or doing strange things, but great work in general. But then we get Secretary Bessent coming out and issuing this warning today on the dangers of the Federal Reserve being independent. Okay, independent meaning that there's no government oversight, that they can't control the Fed. And this all happening as we're seeing, of course, this huge stablecoin, attack dog attempt of a Breton Woods gone rogue situation where, with passing everything to do with the Genius Act and all the threats that it poses, trying to get stablecoin basically to be dollar backed and to force this, push this across the world that will undermine local currencies, other national currencies in this digital system. Okay. And so it's all interesting, but with what I'm trying to focus on here with Bessent is that he's basically saying, the Fed shouldn't be independent and we should have the government control, or at least it should be changed, this independence of, and this gets into, of course, to the World Bank and also the Federal Reserve systems across the world. And so we know with the Bank of International Settlements, they have the situation of what is the universal programmable digital ledger, right? Where they're trying to quantify every asset that exists on Earth owned by people, and then also all the natural assets, which I've been talking about on this show for a couple of years now, this natural asset corporations. And this to me gets into the Make America Beautiful Again executive order that I need to look deeper into, and hopefully will this week. But, we have to remember Howard Lutnick and his, when he said, I don't know, early, like in the end of January, early February, where he said, oh, America has $500 trillion in assets, in natural assets, okay? Meaning all the land and all of the minerals and all of the energy and all of the land that is not supposed to be quantified and used and leveraged, okay, as against digital currency. That would be basically the capturing of real assets to leverage it against the stable coins and other things. And then, of course, you get natural asset corporations swooping in, and it all becomes a whole new rich man's game, right? However, okay, so that's the Bank of International Settlements already doing this international programmable, or basically universal, they're calling it, programmable ledger, where they're trying to quantify every single living thing, tree, blade of grass, human being, and animal, and nature preserved, everything. And there seems to be, in my estimation, the U.S. trying to grab that away, okay, from the elites out of Netherlands and Switzerland and Luxembourg, and basically, say we're going to grab control of that in our own country at least, okay, where we're going to leverage our assets here in America, which I do not like, okay, which is not. Real assets, okay, shouldn't be leveraged against a dollar currency that has already been based on fiat. But I can see the argument. I can see the argument for why they're saying, we need to, dig the U.S. out of this giant pit, tariff the heck out of everybody, as it should be, because they tariff the heck out of the USA, and basically kind of do this Breton Woods 2 or 3.0, where we're basically saying, you know, we can basically create money based on the wealth of the nation. And that would be one thing. Okay, it'd be one thing if built in there was that all of the American citizens get a big fat check, okay, based on that. And also that it wasn't a digital control grid prison planet currency system, all right, that even if it's not a central bank digital currency, that it's a US digital currency, and that if there's a way that there is the creation of the digital currency, which seems to be 100% allowed through this new anti-CBDC Surveillance Act. They keep trying to push, like Howard Lutnick, Epstein's neighbor, I mean, I'm just saying, who happens to, you know, really love the AI moratorium, trying to squeeze it into the NDAA, even though we fought so hard to get it out of the big, beautiful bill, pushing to steal everybody's intellectual and copywritten property and videos and everything online and everything owned to feed the machine learning for AI dominance, which is necessary to create this whole structure that would become this natural asset backed digital currency. So I hope I'm kind of making myself clear here and that you're following along with this, because who they've said maybe Kevin, you know, excuse me, that that Bessent would become the head of the Fed, as well as also still the Secretary of Treasury. And that's not entirely unprecedented. It had happened before in the distant past, where you had members of who is the what do they call the governor, the board of governors of the Fed, where you had one of those being Secretary of the Treasury way back when. That wasn't a great thing because that's right when the Fed was getting going. But basically, he's trying to say we can't have them just be this independent body run by private banksters that get to decide how the economy is going to work based on their globalist their globalist views of wanting America to fail. And he's not wrong there. And we know, I've been talking about Kevin Warsh, who is, and there's also Kevin Hassett, the head of their economic advisory board. Well, Kevin Warsh is in there as well, and he's come out really strong, saying, when, you know, if I'm putting the foot in the Fed, we need to go into the Fed and break heads. Okay, he uses strong language. We need to break heads. We need to break down the Federal Reserve System, the whole deep state international run situation that is trying to destroy America. And he's full bore, hardcore. And so I kind of like Kevin Warsh and what he says, and Bessent with this warning to the Fed that they are their independence from any government control or oversight is destroying America's economy. I can't help but say, yeah, that's true. And yet we have the problem of, you know, this creation of an AI controlled America, and the inevitability of the fact that the AI situation is imminent across the world. And so we've got this technocratic attempt to capture our economy and our government, and straight up in there in all the funding, and this whole situation of Palantir with the surveillance that can easily create a social credit score system that could play directly into currency. I think it's called, isn't it called Stargate? Stargate initiative project out of OpenAI and Oracle that, you know, you just can't get enough of Trump being like, oh, we just, you know, we're so excited about all these guys with their billions and billions. And they need massive amounts of AI data centers, which they are planning to put up all across the country and all throughout the Southwest and Texas and into the Southeast and even Northeast. And so there's this huge push. And it's interesting. I saw a movie called Eddington, okay, over the weekend. And this movie Eddington is all about it's kind of intense and a little gritty, so I don't necessarily recommend you go see it if you want to be disturbed. It's disturbing. I'm so used to all this stuff that it's kind of just washes through with the rest of all the information and research. But it's kind of the Eddington scenario is what we're facing. And this movie is interesting, a predictive programming movie, kind of like the G20 movie that was out a couple months ago about the same thing of a stable coin happening at the G20 summit. And in the movie, it took place in South Africa, and it actually is in November is the G20 meeting in this November in South Africa. And you have oh, what's her name? Viola Davis playing an ex-Marine who is the president now, and she's trying to put this stable coin to support farmers of the world. And it's this whole thing where terrorists attack, and U.S. wins, she wins, and defeats the terrorists who want to hijack the digital currency system and all this. But that's an aside. But Eddington is very interesting to look at because this movie, basically the whole scenario is that it's a Cloward and Piven situation in this small town that's supposed to be somewhere outside of Las Cruces, New Mexico, southern New Mexico, where there is this fight between and it takes place during the V years, okay, where they're supposed to wear masks and they're supposed to close down, and there's all these rules, and it gets all the and then the Floyd riots start, and this is a little town in the middle of the desert in New Mexico, and the sheriff is basically saying, and so sorry if I blow the story here. If you want to see Eddington, probably don't watch this next 5 minutes. But what happens is that you see a Clowder and Piven scenario and setup coming from the big technocrats who want to set up this AI plant, this AI data center outside of this town. And the town council, there's a huge amount of resistance to this happening and what it will do to the town and who will own it, who will control everything. And this all happening in the backdrop of, this racism and wokeism and kind of DEI stuff, and all this fighting factions that come out and during this COVID lockdown situation. And then there's pedophilia rings brought up in there of deep, dark ritual abuse secrets. It is a whole conglomeration where they throw that all together to basically say, yeah, a lot of this is true, and yet what it does is everybody pitted against each other, while above them all is the AI data center technocrat billionaires just wanting to get control of the area to put in their data center so that they can move forward with their plan for a digital surveillance control grid. And so, and that's the big thing that we need to worry about and be concerned about here, because everything's pointing towards that. And it's very disturbing. As much as I, really, am amazed and support Trump in his incredible ability to, save the country right now. The thing moving forward here, and as we signed that America Israel AI agreement of understanding, cooperation agreement 10 days ago, right before the big AI summit in Pennsylvania. I think there's going to be another AI summit this week, I think on Wednesday in DC, where this whole control system and this push for this moratorium where AI has total control to steal all of your intellectual property and copywritten material, use it to train the machines, while Palantir comes in with its surveillance grid. And these AI centers, largely, hugely, run all the money is from billionaire elites from Silicon Valley and from outside of the country, from Arab countries and European countries, and then you get the Golden Dome, right, which would be necessary, okay, to protect, okay, the new infrastructure of energy and AI to create the massive grid here that protects and has everything to do with the creation and running of the stablecoin digital currency system. So it's all very, it's intense and there's a lot behind it. And so we have to, think of, the long con, right? The long con of what that movie Eddington puts out as we fight, fight, fight. And, we get, Barack Obama and the rest of the treason gang, the coup and the overthrow of America thrown into Alcatraz. There was that great video that Trump put out over the weekend of that deep fake AI of Obama being arrested in the Oval Office with Trump sitting there, and they're playing YMCA. And of course, the YMCA background code was always, YMCA, the men's club, that's for the Gitmo crowd. And so Gitmo Alcatraz is a very interesting thing to consider, but it is also just very important to understand that on the other side of this, we have Russia and the BRICS countries that Trump's always railing against that have been set up to be kicked off the SWIFT system, which they were able to do through creating the war with Ukraine, with Russia, where then the sanctions were to kick Russia off of off of SWIFT. And now they've created MBridge, which gets around the tariffs because they don't use the dollar. And so they have their own trading apparatus their own transactional system they've been putting in new undersea cables between, with China and Russia and new satellites up and the fiber optics, all of it for what is their MBridge system to avoid the tariffs and not use the dollar in their trade. And where, Trump is coming with this situation of the stable coin, dollar-backed stablecoin attempt to control countries, right? To wrap them into stablecoin trade to be backed by the dollar through the SWIFT system. So it is all, it's very interesting. Okay, it's Catherine Austin Fitts said it well. She said this is like a hostile takeover of the currency market, and I've been calling it this rogue Breton Woods. And so we're going to see what happens, okay? But it is that to me is the larger scenario and everything's so large because we absolutely 100% want to see everybody responsible for the attempted coup and treason in this country brought to justice like immediately. And the fact that it's happening is fantastic. Absolutely 100% support it. And we can't let Bondi and her DOJ get in the way because we have people there like Ed Martin, okay, the incredible guy who's in charge of the with offices across the country to do with the weaponization of government task force. And he would be the perfect person, okay, to take on this massive conspiracy to commit treason, to commit a seditious coup, an overthrow of the US government. And so we want Ed Martin to get in there. Okay, we want a task force, and that's why you want to call up your senators and representatives to do that. 202-224-3121 for Senate, 202-225-3121 for the House. Bill Blaster app is always great as well. You can get that as an app, or you can just go to billblasterapp.org and find all your people and badger them, because we also have Trump asking Thune to stay, to please don't send the Senate home. He has over 100 confirmations that are still not done. This has to do a lot with U.S. senators, U.S. attorneys, and so many people that are not confirmed. We're seeing in New Jersey, they're trying to oust Alina Habba, who was Trump's lawyer in a lot of the lawfare cases. He asked her to go and be the interim, waiting nomination there in New Jersey as U.S. attorney. There's 17 district judges that Hakeem Jeffries has specifically, politically which is just wrong, ask them to get rid of her. And that should be, and I believe Article 3 project is going up against Hakeem Jeffries to put in a complaint. Let's see what's going on there, if I can find that. Where basically Article 3 project, it's put in an ethics complaint versus Hakeem Jeffries for just pointing out it's illegal for a sitting representative to try to coerce judges for political considerations to oust a U.S. sitting attorney. And so they're going after Alina Habba, and Trump is saying we need our U.S. attorneys confirmed ASAP. So, Senate, could you please get our confirmations done? And there's just massive pushback by the Democrats. And then we get people like Mark Green resigning out of the Senate, out of Tennessee. He's going to take some business job in Guyana. He had that whole affair with a younger woman. She was like 32. He was 59 last year. It caused a divorce with his wife. This is in 24. And he still came back and stayed in Congress, but he's been vying to find a business job to get the heck out of D.C., and he's done it, and yesterday was his last day official resignation. And so we're having this whole huge fight with such a narrow small edge, in the House for Republicans to get anything done. And we see this going on even when they're trying to create more House seats for Republicans in Texas, that Mike Johnson is putting in total sabotage into that by naming a co-chairman on this redistricting committee that is totally a Democrat rabid dog. And so it's just, it's always one step forward, two steps back, but we're not quite there. We're kind of, we're a little bit two steps forward here and pushing. And though I have so much to say, I'm going to have to put the rest of it tomorrow because I only have this amount of time for this video tonight. But while we're all, it's very important to, the larger 30,000 foot view of the AI control grid is massive, and we have to put our attention to it. And yet we also have to put our huge prayers about the taking down of the cabal, that tried to destroy our country that was supposed to be destroyed. It was supposed to be 8 years of Obama selling out the nation, and destroying it on the world stage. All right. And then it was to be Hillary for 8 years to come in and literally destroy America from within, and to give total globalist control with the UN, what was going to be the even worse pandemic scenario, all of it to destroy the nation. So we have bought time, and I believe Trump keeps buying time here, and we don't know the full picture. And we always have our, full depth look and spidey senses on to know that we have so much more to learn, and but just always to be aware. And we know that God, is the one in charge of it all, and our prayers are so paramount in it. And so I want to ask you to pray. I want to ask you, just to remember, in Matthew, when he says, Jesus said that, you are to be, you're being put out there as sheep, but you're contending with wolves. And so be as smart as vipers, but as peaceful as doves. So basically what that means is our prayers are paramount, but our actions are also paramount too. So in our prayers and taking on the sword of God's armor, we go out there to fight these demons, because that is also what we are imbued with, which is the ability to cast out demons, and to cast them out right now in the creation of whatever this is, that we are also part of it, to understand that, to occupy that space inside yourself, to know I am part of this recreation of America and what's going on to reorganize the world. And God, put me in, use me. I volunteer. I'm here. So show me what to do. and then follow that message and do it. So get involved, precinctstrategy.com, so many places, because the midterms are going to be a literal blood fight. Okay, it's going to be massive. So we're in it. Mom Donnie's gone to Uganda. Okay, Mom Donnie's gone to Uganda with his new wife Duwaji, the artist and animationist. And they're going there for like 2 weeks with their family and friends to Uganda, which he supposedly left when he was 7. But apparently that's the place to be, in Uganda, which is mainly a Christian country, has about a 13% Muslim population, mostly Sunni, vast majority Sunni population in Uganda. And Mamdani, okay, and we've got, that other guy up in Fatah out in Minneapolis. They're putting in these Muslim communists across the country. There's the one trying to vie for Nancy Pelosi's seat. He was the one who actually groomed and got AOC into power through their social Justice Democrats, I believe, was their organization. So we're up on this fight, okay? And there's so much more to say. I'm going to get into what happened in Japan today was massive. I'll get into that tomorrow with huge populist wins. We've got Kevin Sharkey announcing he's running for president in Ireland, half Nigerian, half Irish. Again, in my opinion, not born there, shouldn't be president. However, he comes out on full bore anti-migration, anti-invasion, Christian, Catholic mom, Nigerian dad. So we're going to get into him tomorrow. We're going to talk about so much more. There's so much more. There was an Israeli ritual abuse cult that was coming out of the Knesset and their investigation there. So we're going to cover it. But that's where I have to leave you for today. And I want to say thank you, of course, to my sponsor, c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off the incredible miracle molecule that gets into your mitochondria and cleans it out and helps you be free of the garbage and also fight inflammation hugely. People use it for the big C, basically because cellular health, mitochondrial health, is DNA survival and repair, and it fights everything that our bodies come back to stasis. So if you use the code YFTV, you get 10% off, and anybody who donates or contributes to the channel gets 15% off. And I give away 2 bottles every month, and the end of the month's coming here in 10 days. For anybody who donates to the channel, you get put in that pot of a random selection, and 2 people selected every month. I love C60 Evo because it comes from the best lab in the world with the purest carbon 60 in Houston, Texas. And these guys there, literally, they recreate the heat of the sun to power and create fullerenes, all right? And then they clean it up to 100% pure for human consumption. So it is amazing. c60evo.com/YAFTV, code YAFTV, 10% off. So thank you so much for watching. If you found something of value and added value in this video today that is, just helpful news, I so appreciate you supporting the channel below. The more I'm supported, the more videos I'm able to do. And I'm constantly fighting the shadow banning, so please like and share the video. And liking is really important, but I'm constantly shadow banned. I haven't been able, I was taken down several years ago, deplatformed, had all the, my subscribers taken and my donators taken away, all of it. So I've been rebuilding, and it's really so much harder, right? As everything's backdoored and controlled, even harder now than it was before. So thanks so much for watching. So appreciate you. I'll be back tomorrow, and we'll just keep digging in, okay, into this panoply of what is, what's the outcome, okay, of the Trump presidency. Where can they get to? What are they trying for? Because there's multiple signals here, and some of them are great, and some of them are disturbing. So we'll keep going tomorrow. You are free, and I'll see you then.